Hello, hello, Cassie Brown here. I am thrilled to welcome you to the Brace for Impact podcast. I've been incredibly blessed to work with and coach some of the top entrepreneurs, CEOs, and marketers in the industry. And do you know the one thing that they all had in common? They didn't wait for the perfect time, but hit the ground running. They learned to see opportunity in motion and just leap. I created this podcast to help other entrepreneurs own their calling, expand their influence, get uncomfortable, embrace the growth of the journey to leave an impact on the world around them. For those who are ready to stop playing it small, to pick up the mantle of contribution that our clients in the world so desperately need. If that's you, then get ready to brace for impact as I share with you the top strategies, real truths, and hacks to crash through the obstacles and arrive in alignment of integrity, impact, and income. It's time to initiate the ripple effect of change. Hi guys, Cassie Brown here, and I am so super excited about today's guest. I'll do a little bit of pre-framing that Parker Woodward reached out to me and he's like, you have to talk to Preston. And here we are. So Preston and I briefly caught up yesterday. It was the first time that we had ever kind of met virtually. But I am so super excited to share Preston Anderson with you guys. He is a CPA turned tax planner extraordinaire. But that's not all. And you'll quickly find out his heart for impact and his amazing story and transformation, and why he's so driven not only for his family but to help other people actually keep and leverage the money that they make to really just be that ripple effect of income and impact, actually. Sorry about that. So to be that ripple effect of impact. So Preston, I am just going to pass it over to you. I would really love to just do what we did yesterday and you just share, just hit the ground running and share your story. And then we are just going to go from there, organic conversation. And everyone here, you guys probably remember the previous episodes of the good, the bad, and the ugly of my story. And Preston has this is how new our friendship is. He doesn't know my background or my history. And during our call for prepping for the interview yesterday, I was like, I don't want to spoil everything that we're going to do on the episode. So he is dying, but we're going to share all of that with you guys today. So super, super excited. Preston, take it away.
Thanks, Casey. So you're probably wondering why an accountant is on this show. It's if that was my story as just an accountant, I don't think I would be here, right? But I've always kind of been destined to be in the numbers game, even though generally accountants have kind of a certain personality. I don't feel like I have that personality. And like I said, I was kind of destined for it. When I was 3 years old, I was doing square roots. In second grade, I was doing high school math, but I couldn't read. I learned to read in third grade. And so I was always destined to go into something with numbers. I didn't realize until much later that there is no math in accounting. It's all law with numbers. And so I've been in this field since '04, and I worked for other people, and I learned a lot from them, but what they were doing wasn't really kind of my cup of tea. So 6 years ago, I went off on my own and started my own business and had just a wonderful time kind of doing the things that I love doing, helping people. And then a wrinkle was thrown into my life. And 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, my wife was pregnant. And on the first week of her pregnancy, we landed in the ER. Didn't really know why. They gave her some drugs. Turned out those drugs have a correlation to kids with heart defects. And so at 20 weeks, we found out my son, well, first of all, we weren't going to find out it was a son. We were going to have a little party for him and a gender reveal party. And we told the doctor that. She came in and said, so you're going to have a boy and he's going to have heart surgery. We're like, what? Excuse me? And we were kind of in shock, and my daughter had some issues with her kidney or something in utero. But by the time she was born, it was all cleared up. And so I was kind of asking, so is it kind of like that? Is you going to be fine? It just is kind of this thing that will be cleared up. And they're like, no, not at all. And so for the next 4 months, we were at the doctor's office 2 to 3 times a week, tracking him and figuring out all the different issues that were going on, talking to different specialists. And by the time he was born, we already had roughly 200 people that were aware of his coming that were prepped and planned to receive him. And so he was born September 21st. So just a few days ago, 4 years ago. He just had his birthday, just turned 4. So this is a happy story, just to remind everybody.
I know, like, just for you guys listening, like, I was silent the whole time that he shared this the first time. And I am like, okay, Parker said I needed to meet this guy, but if I'm going to cry my heart out, Parker has some prepping to do first. And this is just truly amazing. And congratulations on the birthday and then celebrating. But I will let you continue. I just wanted to pause and thank you for that, because I know, like, I was totally on the edge of my seat. I was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Yeah. So this is a happy story, but there are a few lows. I thought, man, every time we thought that it was the end, or that we would get to this point and we're like, okay, we got there. We had the surgery. We're done. Yay. It was never the end. And so before he was born, they gave us basically a timeline of everything that was going to happen in his life. And for the first month, it was to a T exactly the way they said. In the first 8 months, it was to a T exactly what they said. They said there's a couple of different options. It could go this way or that way, but it's going to fall in one of these two categories. And it fell exactly in line with what they said. At 8 months, he had a second open heart surgery, which is what they told us was going to happen. And it went perfectly. And we took him home after 1 week. And then he got a cold. And a cold for a normal kid is no big deal. A cold for a kid with a recent open heart surgery that has issues could literally be life-threatening. And so we took him back to the hospital. It sounds like you took him back to the store. No, we took him to the hospital back to get him checked up. And the ER was looking at him like, we don't really see anything wrong. And we sat in the ER for like 12 hours until he vomited in the ER. And then they rushed him up to the ICU. And in the ICU, they said, this kid looks like death. And pretty soon there were 20 nurses and doctors in the hospital in his room, checking him out and making sure everything was fine. And then the roller coaster started. And from there, it was just kind of good days, bad days, good days, bad days, until he developed something called ARDS. We were basically we thought we were a day or two from going home at this point. And he'd been in the hospital about a month. And one day they called my wife. My wife decided to spend the night at home. My sister stayed the night at the hospital. And they sent my sister home and said, yeah, he's fine. No big deal. My wife will be there in an hour, so you can go home. And they called my wife and said, get here now. And my wife dropped everything and ran to the hospital. She posted on Facebook something cryptic. And another sister of mine called me and said, can I take your kids? So I dropped him off, and my wife called me minutes later and said, Preston, get here. And so I dropped him off at my sister's house and ran to the hospital. And walking up to his room in the ICU, there were literally 25 some doctors and nurses in his room, and a nurse grabbed me by the arm and said, get out of here. You cannot be here. And so she led me away into the waiting room, and we just sat for 4 hours, not knowing anything, not knowing if he was fine, just knowing nothing. And that day, the doctors kind of stopped talking to us, and they would send in interns to explain what was going on. And the interns, basically, we would ask questions, and they didn't have any answers whatsoever. And we learned it was called ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, where his lungs, I've heard it called wet lung as well, where his lungs basically turned to jelly, and he wasn't getting any oxygen through his lungs whatsoever. And so they had to put him basically on a kind of an iron lung for 3 weeks and sedated him to the point where he wasn't there. He was not in his body. And we were very fortunate because we were able to talk to this friend of ours, friend of a friend, and she was a respiratory therapist, and she basically laid out the entire next 3 to 4 weeks of our lives and said, You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. If he survives, because this disease has a 50% mortality rate, if he survives, it's going to be one step forward, one step back for a while. And then pretty soon it'll be two steps forward, but one step back. But you're going to continually go backwards. Even if he's taking steps forward, you're not going to feel like you're making any progress. And so for about a month, it was that tango of forwards and backwards, good days and bad days. And after about 3 months, he finally was able to go home, and things were great, but we couldn't keep him out of the hospital. And so he had his second open heart surgery in May of 2016. And I remember very clearly, I'm a very big Cubs fan, as you can see by my World Series cup that I drink out of. I watched game 6 of the World Series in the ER with him, and game 7 at the Ronald McDonald's house. It's very memorable for me. But from that point forward, we spent about 14 months, about a year in the hospital, give or take. He's been in the hospital about total 14 months. But for that year, we spent all but about 2 months in the hospital. And they kept not knowing what to do. And we consulted with Lurie's in Chicago, with Boston Children's Hospital, if you can name a major medical hospital for children, we talked to them, and none of them knew what to do. And one day they finally came to us and said, this was during tax season, and I was at work, and they came to my wife and said, he's going to need a trach. And my wife fell apart, and she called me and just broke in tears. And so trying to be the strong husband, I packed up everything. I called all my clients and said, I'll see you guys next week. And so I left and took 3 days off and just forgot about our problems. We went and had a wonderful weekend in the city, and kind of just forgot about everything. Spent time with our sons, spent time with each other, and just loved life. Kind of forgot about everything. And for 2 weeks, it was, okay, this is coming, but we kind of prepped for it. The day before that surgery, his heart stopped. And it was a Monday, and I was working, and my wife called me and said, our son's heart stopped. And my reaction was to keep working. So take that it was a week before tax deadline. So, I mean, I was incredibly busy and I felt behind, but my reaction was to take all of those emotions and stuff them in my back pocket and put my head down and just work. And so, I mean, they revived him and he was fine. They ended up having, they went in and did basically an exploratory heart surgery, which never sounds very good, but they found his aorta and his airway were lying on top of each other. And so they pulled his aorta off of it, put it like a little sling under his aorta, pulled it off the airway so that it was not pressing against it and continually causing him to lose the ability to breathe out of his left lung. And it basically fixed him. We got out of the hospital. 2 weeks later, we drove to Disneyland from Chicago. Okay. We're a little insane. But all of a sudden, once we kind of got back home, all those emotions that were in my back pocket came up. And all of a sudden, I struggled hard. And I had found some things to help me cope that were not healthy for me. Like I started playing a game. I've never been a gamer. I've never played video games in my life. And all of a sudden, I found myself playing Clash of Clans or Clash Royale, a stupid video game, for 8 to 10 hours a day. And I'd put on 50 pounds living at Ronald McDonald's house. And I was just miserable and I couldn't get out of bed. And the people that I loved that were my clients, all of a sudden I couldn't talk to them. And I had to make my wife get on the phone to tell them any piece of remotely bad news because I couldn't do it. And I mean, they were understanding. Like, if somebody owes $2,000 on a tax return, it's no big deal. But I didn't have it in me to talk to somebody and tell them any piece of bad news. And it got so bad between me and my wife that my wife actually asked me to move out. And I said no. And she called our bishop. And he came over to the house and was talking to us and basically tried shaming me into getting better, and looked at me and said, or he looked at my wife and asked her how she was dealing with all of this and how all of my inadequacies were making her feel. And she was saying it was horrible and how bad it made her feel. And he looked at me and said, all right, does that make you want to be a better person? I said, no, shame doesn't work on me. And I tried explaining why. For me to get better, I need something to go to, not run from. And he looked at me like a crazy person. Like he's like, well, that was my tool. I don't know what else to do. And I tried explaining, and being an accountant, I had a hard time explaining exactly what was going through my mind. And it was when my wife took all of the feelings that were in my heart and all of the stuff that I was going through and explained that exactly to our bishop in such a way that she understood me better than I understood myself. And it was at that moment that my heart melted. And I realized I need to get better. I need to do things to overcome this. And so from that moment forward, I would say that was a changing point when I started to change my life. And like I said, I'd gained 50 pounds, right? So a year ago, on October 13th, it's a very memorable day, I decided I was going to run a marathon. And I was 274 pounds and I couldn't literally run a mile. So I signed up for the Chicago Marathon October 13th of this year. And I went out and I ran 2 miles. Well, I should say I walked 2 miles. I threw on a couch to mile program. And I did that for like 2 days. And then I decided I needed to do more. And so after I would do that, I would throw on a couch to 5K. And so I would do them simultaneously. So in about 30 days, I had run a 5K. And this May I ran a half marathon, and I'm signed up for the Chicago Marathon in about 3 weeks. And I would say I'm very ready and excited for it. But then I realized there are so many aspects of my life that I needed to change and needed to upgrade. And so now this morning I went for a 5-mile run. I woke up at 5 a.m. and I took a cold shower and I read. If you'd have asked me a year ago or even any other point in my life, I would have said, you're crazy. I'm not doing any of those things. I've never, like I said, I learned to read in 3rd grade. The first full book I read in my entire life, I was 23. Since July 4th of this year, I've read about 10 books. Since over the past month and a half, 2 months, every day I've taken a shower. I've taken a cold shower. I finish off every single shower with a cold shower. And I do these hard things to remind myself that I'm alive and to remind myself that I can literally get through anything. No matter how hard, how tough, I can push myself and find that strength to push on and to get up out of bed and just to be alive. So something that I do, I ride motorcycles. And I realized when you ride a motorcycle, the destination does not matter even a little. There is no, it's the journey that matters. You could drive for 3 hours in a circle and it doesn't matter. What you enjoy is the journey. And so I've had to learn to not necessarily worry about where I'm going, or not necessarily the end point, but I've had to learn to instead love all of the little moments in between. Because if you just focus on this end point, I mean, for the first 2 years of my son's life, we didn't know if he was going to live or not. And so I kept focusing on that. I kept focusing on, we're going to lose him. And it literally destroyed me. And so for the past 2 years now, I've done a lot of stuff to rebuild myself and to find that strength to get out of bed every morning. And I'm a night owl. I like to go to bed at 1 a.m. And for the past few weeks, I've been going to bed at 9 o'clock at night. Last night I was in bed at 9 o'clock at night reading a book. And I've realized that doing all these things to change and to become a better person have really just, it's been a fun transformation. And so that's my story.
Yeah, I am just, all I can say is It's incredible. You're incredible. And I identify so much with what you shared and the ups and the downs and the roller coaster and that battle internally and externally of like how you were supposed to behave on the outside and the absolute turmoil that's going on the inside. So to bring you up into the parallels and why like this just is causing so much emotion in me. 8 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And we always said like it was hard. It changed our world, like turned our world upside down. And at that point in time, we had 3 kids. So we always said was like, thank God it's us. So what you went through with your son, like I just could not imagine, because we always had that one little layer where it was like, and we had these hard conversations, like you said, like, are we going to lose him? And you're looking at the potential that someone has, and that's all you see. Not only do you see that little 2-year-old, but you also see maybe that football player that's not going to be there, or that husband walking down the aisle. And, my husband would say, at least I had all of this time. And so it was so hard, like, to hear the turmoil, because the pain of a parent you can't even compare it. But I do totally understand how you retreated. It's almost like when you have that life-changing diagnosis of someone that just, you love more than words and more than air. You almost start living in a twilight zone, like a complete alternate reality.
Yep.
And so when you talked about staying there and working it, and I know like inside you're like, this is so wrong. Like, this is so wrong. But it was really just the only defense that you had to maintain normal and like refusing to accept what's on the other side of that phone call.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't accept a lot of my reality for a long time. That's a very good way to put it. I'm sure you've had maybe this experience as well. A lot of times we've had people come up to us and say, when I think we have it tough, I look at your family and say, maybe not so much.
Yes. I had, and I shared this in the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this was one of the things that really did shift my perspective. I mean, there's tons of layers that shift your perspective. Like being shocked with an initial diagnosis, it's like, whoa, wait, like this world doesn't exist outside. Like when you ask them about, well, our daughter had this, kidney thing, like, so it's going to be okay, right? Like that was your reality, right? Like, yeah, it'll heal itself. When they said he has a mass on his brain, it's like, whoa, that's just foreign language. Like, take that back. Like, I don't want that in my life, like complete denial. And so with everything that came along, and I don't think you had mentioned like there really is not an end, and that there isn't. There's a diagnosis, there's treatment, there's recovery, and then there's just figuring out between follow-ups and everything, like whatever your new normal looks like.
100%.
But we had, when Adam got home out of inpatient therapy, we had a party and a barbecue, and a girlfriend had come up to us, and I totally understand the way that she meant it. Like, she meant it as a complete compliment. She is like, the way that you guys have went through this and handled it with such grace. And now, like, on the surface, I'm like, you may have seen grace, but like, I was like psycho in my head. But she said, it makes me want to just gather up all of my problems and hold them tighter because they're mine. Yeah. And I know that it could always be worse. And so Adam jokes, like Adam, and my older sister, like she was my lifesaver. Like, of everything, you had a cooler head. Like me, I just totally lost it. I freaked out. Like I was no good to anybody. Like I could not think straight. And so my older sister, fortunately, we had just moved and she was nearby. So she was like the brains of the operation, like, thank God I don't have to plan everything, because I know April's going to step in and take care of it. So every anniversary year that comes around with Adam, all of his friends always joke, like, you changed our lives, like you shifted our perspective. And he is just like, the only thing that he can do is deal with things with humor. And he's like, glad I got you covered there. The brain tumor, totally worth it, but it's just, so I know what you're talking about when people do say that, but it makes us proud to be able to help people have that little bit of peak of that appreciation and gratitude that is life.
Yeah. So a couple of things I've learned through all of this is people ask me every single day, like, Micah's still on oxygen. He still has our lives are not normal for most people. For us, it's become a new normal. But everybody asks us, so he's going to be okay, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, medicine could change, and he could have some heart surgery in the future down the road where it fixes everything. But as of right now, he will need heart surgeries the rest of his life. His lungs are not normal. He has a left lung that if he drinks water, he literally gives himself pneumonia. So he's had pneumonia maybe 20 times, 15, I don't know, I've lost count. He's had so much crap that kind of just went under the radar because there was so much else that was worse. There was a cold, what was it called? Oh, what was it? I can't remember. No. So he's had C. diff twice. Somebody else at our church had C. diff, and it was like this major thing. And he's had it twice. And it was like, oh yeah, that's just kind of something he had. He had, I don't remember. It was some cold that was going around that to other people, they thought, oh, this is like the worst thing in the world. And Mike is like, oh yeah, I've had that. No big deal. Like, I don't even think that was a blip on our radar. And so people will ask us constantly, is he's okay now, right? When will he get his oxygen off? Or when will that stop? And we're like, for one, the doctors just stopped giving us any type of timelines, because after he got ARDS, their timelines went out the window, and they just didn't know for anything like what was going to be the next thing. So one thing I've learned is be grateful for the moment. Enjoy every single moment you have with somebody, because honestly, we never know when it could be our last. But two, everybody is carrying around a bag of crap, right? We all got problems. We've all got issues that we are dealing with, and we've got skeletons in our closet. And we've all got problems. And we all think everybody else's problems aren't as bad as ours. But the thing is, if we were actually to take a peek at somebody else's problems, we'd say, okay, I'm going to keep my own. Mine aren't so bad, right? And the last thing I've learned is I will never, ever, ever in my life ask what else could go wrong, because something else can always go wrong, right?
That is the truth. And
oh man,
yeah. It just hearing your story about, the operations in the ER, like we had the same thing. It was supposed to be a very simple surgery, 3 days in the hospital, out, just staying at a local hotel, recovering for a week, and then follow-up appointment. And then we went home. And we had talked to other people who had the same similar condition. And in the world of brain tumors, apparently this is the one that you want. Like, this is the lucky lotto card of brain tumors, because it was a slow growing. And at that point, we did not know if it was cancerous or not, because we didn't biopsy before the surgery. They were going to do it after the surgery. But it was also the one that was like the most likely not to be cancerous. So like there you go. Like, if you have a brain tumor, like that's the one you want. And like, but who chooses that? Who wants that? Like, and it wasn't. It was 10 days in ICU. It was tons of tests trying to make sense of everything. It was continual seizures. Like, he looked like at one point he was hooked up to so many machines with wires coming out of his head. Like, our sons went to see him. And at the time, I think Hudson was in kindergarten or first grade, and it scared him. And we didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. But it was just one of those things where it's like, from the ER, to the surgery, to the 10 days in ICU, to then he was only released for 30 days of inpatient rehab. And like, this is like, what? and every single time I felt like, cause we both share faith. Like I'm, I'm a Christian. And so like we prayed and we, did devotionals, and I had quiet time and I had all of this type of stuff. But like each and every like kind of turn, like unexpected turn, was like reopening that wound and like pouring like all the salt in the world. It's like, what?
Yep.
This is not supposed to go this way. Like I was prepared for this. This is what needs to happen. So like just that emotional back and forth. And then of course the guilt that goes along with it. Yeah. And then figuring out I'm supposed to say and do and act a certain way, like, and not really having that outlet, to process everything.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So one of the books that helped me the most through all of this was called But If Not. And it's about this family who basically just went through hell every turn. And what they realized was, like you said, of faith. It's, I will have faith in my Lord that I will get through this. But if not, I will continue to have faith. And that phrase went through my mind a lot. And I would say it was kind of once I came to grips with the worst case scenario was when I was actually able to start kind of recovering myself. But I don't know if you ever had this, but there's something called caregiver's fatigue. And if you've ever been on an airplane, the first thing they tell you, the oxygen masks fall down, help yourself first before you help others, right? And for a long time, I completely stopped taking care of myself. And if when you're going through something that traumatic, it's very easy to stop taking care of yourself when you are the one that you need to take care of the most. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of others. Can I share a picture with you of?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you see this?
Yes.
So this was him at his worst. Oh, geez. This was him kind of after his third heart surgery. And he was puffy. He was, one of the things that he had going for him was he's a really, really fat baby. Okay. Most heart kids are very, very underweight, are very skinny and kind of brittle. And that is not my son. My genes do not allow that. So he was a big baby, which was uncommon. And he had a will in him that was just awesome. I just want to share one more story real fast. So
please. Yeah, we've got plenty of time here. And awesome. I think the biggest thing is just opening up this conversation. And like you said, there is no one that can be 100% on all the time. And a lot of it is just like giving yourself the grace and forgiveness, like to literally be okay and know that whatever you're struggling with, not only even what we went through, even what you went through, like literally, like we could say the same things, like it could always be worse. Like there is, but we also learn not to say that, like what else could happen? Like never. It's just,
never, because Heavenly Father has a sense of humor. And if you say that, he'll test you, he'll find something. So, throughout it all, my business actually, like I said, I stopped talking to people. And so I lost a lot of clients. I lost probably 15 to 20 of my biggest clients were just poof, gone. And yet somehow, some way, my business still grew. I don't know how. It doesn't make any sense to me, but we were blessed. There's no other way to explain it other than we were blessed. And so we had so much to be thankful for, even through the worst of it. Even when I was not able to talk to people, somehow we got new clients to make up for the old ones. But one of the things about my son being just so big, there was a time he was at the hospital and he was on this vest machine. And he kept pulling out the plugs because while he was on it, he was playing. He was legitimately on 20 liters of oxygen, high flow oxygen. And basically his left lung was completely shut down. And he was like, I'm good. I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to keep living my life. So don't stop me. And so to see that kind of strength was just awesome. But like you said, I've seen so many people go through traumatic experiences and come out the other side the same person. And the thing for me that I've really kind of loved about this process is I'm not allowing myself to stay the same person. I'm not allowing myself to stay with my old habits, to do the things that I've always done. I'm using this as a catalyst to become the person that I want to become. And I mean, at first it wasn't that way, right? At first I actually shrunk and became broken and became kind of bitter. And I'm not somebody who's like that. I lived in Chile for 2 years, and in Chile they called me carita alegre, which means happy face. And I kind of stopped smiling for a long time. I didn't really have that joy. But by allowing myself to change and to use this kind of terrible experience as a springboard, I've seen so many things come into my life that would have never come into my life without it. And I'm sure you've seen the same thing
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. In our first conversation, you said something that totally stood out to me, and it was, I can do hard things. And it's incredible. Two things happen when you feel like there cannot be a lower low. You realize you really don't have control of much of anything. The way that we react to our circumstances and our attitude and our outlook, and like you said, our joy, like choose joy. But at the same time, there is something that you just have to accept. And I used to explain it that you have to surrender to the process. And honestly, like I had some conversations with Myron Golden, and through that conversation, the word yield came. And it was one of those things where it's like, that was the word that I've been searching for. That surrender wasn't quite communicating it enough. Because to me, surrender means like you're just done. Like there's nothing left. But yield is a decisive decision that you are going to yield to the purpose that God has laid out for you. And you touched on it with the book, but if not, we can't control that, but we can choose. It's almost like, I grew up in Florida by the beach, and ocean safety and rip currents and all of that type, like that was drilled into us. And it's just like, if you're caught up in a rip current, for us, like this turmoil in our life, like totally out of control, you have to go with it, and you have to swim parallel with the shore until you get through it. Because if you fight and you thrash against it, you're just going to lose. And to me, like that was such the analogy of everything that we went through. And then it is that realization, I'm capable of more than I ever thought possible. I can do hard things. God did not make me just to float along. Like he made me for a purpose. And I think that is the biggest realization that both of us came through on the other side. And now, like it's you can't unknow the known. Like you have to run. You have to go after it with everything that you have.
Yeah. So one of the themes of my life for the past couple of years has been the words flip it. Okay. So 2 years ago, kind of when I was at my worst, I was at a therapist, and I was seeing him regularly, and he didn't really help me a whole lot. But for some reason, every time he said the words self-care, just him saying the word self-care, I would turn into a puddle of goo. I would just start to bawl and cry and just lose control over myself. And I'm like, this isn't good. And he's like, I don't know why you're having that reaction. I'm like, I don't either. And I talked to one of my coaches and told him about it. And he's like, dude, flip it. If you're having that strong of a reaction to it, then make it a strength. And I'm like, oh, well, I can just do that? He's like, just do it. And I'm like, okay. So since I've made my self-care a strength. Like I said, I went for a 5-mile run this morning. I took a cold shower. I do breathing exercises. I meditate. I do things that I push myself that are that are hard to prove to myself that I can continue to do them, that I am still alive, and that I can literally do anything. And so when my day comes and I have a hard issue that comes along, well, it's not so hard because I've already done harder stuff on my own. And all of a sudden, that self-care that was just this massive hurdle in my life has become a strength. And I'm able to, I mean, I'm not perfect at it, but I no longer have this visceral reaction to it where I lose control of myself. So, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing that I do that, but that I did that. But at the same time, it's something that I've learned from, and that I have flipped it and I've made it a strength. It's like with the currents, you often have to go against what your brain is telling you need to do to be able to get around what you need to get around, right? And it's flipping it on its head and looking at it from a completely different perspective. So that's been a theme of my life for the past little bit is flip it. Look at it from a different perspective. Do something in a different way than what you've previously done, because what got you here isn't what's going to get you where you want to go.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And speaking of flipping it, I want to bring this full circle, because like this also forced you to look at different things in your life, like, and the same thing as us with our family. How are we going to prioritize our family and our time, and what needs to shift in business to be able to align so that we're not creating a life around our work, we're creating work around our life. So I'd like to wrap up there. Like, what were the major shifts in your business?
Yeah. So like I said, that last tax season where I decided to work through hearing that my son's heart stopped, and then working on tax day while my son was having open heart surgery. Working through those, I went through one more tax season and I realized this is not what I want to do, because every tax season I work 90 hours a week, 100 hours a week during tax season. And the relationships with my family were strained every year. And so is what I ended up doing a year ago. I ended up selling my business. And before, I was a generalist CPA who kind of did everything for everybody. And is what I've done since is now I go much, much more in depth with each of my clients. And instead of taking on every single person that comes my way, I work with those who I can help the most. And it's stuff that I can do year round. And I don't have to, I still do a few tax returns, but for the most part, instead of just providing kind of the service of filling out forms, I take a very, very in-depth look into into all of my clients' lives, and find all of the different ways that they're overpaying. And so instead of just doing that little forms filling out service, I'm providing much, much more value. So my average client saves $20,000 to $30,000, but I've had clients save $200,000. But one of my favorite, I had somebody who was literally making $60,000. Their accountant told them they were going to owe $6,000. And we did a tax plan. I ended up getting him back $13,000. He had already put aside the $6,000. And so he had the $6,000 to pay. And so when we did the plan, he had the $6,000, he got back $13,000, it's $19,000. I convinced him to take $18,000 of that and put it into a retirement plan. And if he continues to do that every single year, I mean, when he retires in 30 years, he should have somewhere around $4 to $5 million in his retirement account. And I mean, making $60,000 to thinking you're going to owe $6,000 to the government and have nothing to put into savings, to being able to put an extra $1,500 in your pocket and save for retirement, was just life-changing for him. And so I really love those experiences where I'm able to kind of help change somebody's life by using the tax code to their benefit. So
I love that. I love that. I love when we talked yesterday and you were like, I'm a CPA, but like, I don't stop there. I really am passionate about helping people keep the money that they make. And that I align so well with that, because for me, it's all about impact. So the more money that I can actually keep that I make, the more freedom I have to be able to bless and pour it into other people. And that is, so it means the world. Like, thank you so much, not only for sharing your story, but also realizing there is a need to step in and fill that gap for many business owners out there, because it is those small little things that will change. It's that ultimate ripple effect that we're all after. And whether it's just being able to send somebody a gift card or pay for their groceries, like, we had so many friends pour into us, like when we were going through everything with Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Those cards in the mail, like, the timing of those things, like, it was like, holy smokes, like, I needed that today, or I needed not, to not have to order dinner tonight because someone showed up. And it's those small little things. And if you do it right, like, those small little things can turn into big things, that, like, the orphanages, or the funding adoptions, or the wells in Africa. Like, but it just sometimes, like you said, put on your own oxygen mask. It could just literally start at home.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say, Casey. I have to tell you, I love hearing your story. I identify so much of what you said. I did cry a lot. You weren't lying. It sounds like your husband's okay.
He is. He's
Okay.
good. Just like you guys, like, we have routine checkups. Right now we're on a every 6 weeks schedule.
Yeah.
And it's between local. We have a team local here, and then we have a team at Duke in North Carolina. So that's only 5 hours away. And so we'll rotate between those 6 weeks. Like, one scan will be here locally, and the next scan will drive there, and they are on it. Like, they are monitoring it. He does have certain doses that has to come up and down, like, based on some activity, because they were only able to get about 80% of the tumor where it was located in his brain. So it's always going to be there. Like, and it's the nature of it. It's a slow growing tumor. So just like you, like, I could hug and kiss Parker so hard, and because he's like, you just don't ask any questions, just schedule the interview. So so just like you said, like, he's going to have heart surgeries for the rest of his life,
Yeah.
for your son. We're in the same boat. It's not everyone else is normal, but, like, it's just
It's
what
become normal for you.
it's what we've adjusted to. And it's not always easy with 4 kids, because stress and fatigue affect seizures.
Yeah.
And that's one of the side effects of where, his surgery was, and having the brain tumor. So it's like, how do you get onto your kids without, like, really getting onto your kids? And then sometimes it's just like, you've tried to bottle it up so long, and then it's like a volcano, and then you're apologizing to everybody because it's like, I said your dad doesn't need, like, and then you realize, like, you're doing exactly what you asked them not to do.
Yeah, that's been I've been noticing that about myself over the past few days is, and I'm working on this, right? I'm trying to flip it, but I'm expecting so much of my kids. So we have 2 other kids as well. So we have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and Micah just turned 4. We thought we were going to have more, but Micah's been more than a handful. So I think we're done. But you expect so much of them, and I want to help them do everything that I see that I know they can accomplish. And I'm working on not taking it out, but rather than just getting upset that they're not doing what I see that they should be doing, or that I know that they have in them to do, it's helping them to accomplish those. Real fast, we were at my son's school for his birthday party this week, and he was upset that we brought a book and not a Hot Wheels car, and so he started bawling over that. And my wife and our first reaction was to say, "Oh, it's okay, we have Hot Wheels at home." The teacher's response was so much better. It was, "I see that you're upset about this book and you wanted the Hot Wheels car. Does that make you upset? Is that why you're upset?" And he said, "Yeah." And she said, "Okay, it's okay to be upset. Can I give you a hug?" And it just was like this breath of fresh air, what she poured into this knowledge of how to handle somebody else when they're upset. That I loved it. And so I'm trying to take that attitude and that process. I'm not great at it yet, but practice makes better?
Totally. And I fortunately like recognize that same thing. Like, it's not so much like the generation of like, do what I said because I said it, don't ask any questions. Like, that just, it's not me, and it doesn't work on our kids.
No.
So it has made us navigate conversations a little bit better. Like now with our oldest, he's 13. I just straight out said, like, look, I don't want to have this kind of relationship with you. I don't want to be the nagging, yelling mom. But it is super frustrating when I ask you every single day, like, to not leave your stuff on the bathroom floor. So could you do me a favor and make this easier for me? And because I'm having to realize, like, I don't want his perception of what a mom is or what a conversation is. Like, I don't want that frustrated teenager and nagging mom relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I want him to know I love him and I'm proud of him. And I know it's part of, just growing up, like, he's distracted. That's not a priority in his life right now. I will say, though, I've learned that my kids get a lot more scared when I don't yell, and I just like lean down and like, it would be helpful if you would just do it. And that's like, all of a sudden I've got their full attention, and it's like, okay, so this is working. Like, a calmer communication here is working, but that's tip on distraction, like 100% on. And I'm struggling with teaching the older kids, because we have a 5-year-old also, and she just like will melt down and lose it. And they'll want to argue with her about it. Like, no, you don't need to do that. And instead, it's like, I want them to understand emotion is okay.
Yeah. Sure.
But then, like, hey, do you want to go color, or do you want to go do this? And then she's like, yeah, switch is off. Tears are rolling back, and I'm ready to go. Like, I can be normal again.
For sure. So I one of the things that's helped me the most is I listen to people like Zig Ziglar almost every single day. Zig Ziglar, Tom Bilyeu, Les Brown. When I run, I don't listen to music. Instead, I listen to people that motivate me. And one of the things that I love about Zig Ziglar that I listened to this week was, when talking to kids, rather than trying to fight them, put them down, whatever, what actually helps them change the most is setting your expectation of them. And so it's, instead of saying, oh, hey, why'd you do that? This was stupid. Saying, hey, I see you're such a leader. I see that you help people and you do this and you do that. Do you think a leader would do that? And then all of a sudden you change your perspective of them, and they change their perspective of themselves. And so that's something I've been trying to incorporate with my kids is changing my perspective of them, and first complimenting them, and then using that compliment to say, hey, would somebody that is a champion of this, would they do that? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, it takes a few weeks, a few months, but after a while they really start to kind of live up to those expectations. So
yeah, I love it. So I know we're at the top of the hour.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Like, and for everyone who's listening, thank you so much for spending time with us. Like, just navigate the story of change that pushed us, into a life that you realize, like, I am capable of more. Like, it's incredible, the potential that we all really truly have just sitting in ourselves, and the spark may be there, but like, it's time to light it on fire, and just in navigating the family life, the business life, with kids, like, it's a constant learning experience. And if nothing else, I really try to always communicate just grace and like you said, enjoy the journey and the growth and the changes. Like, there's so many people who think like there should be a straight path. And just like with kids, like with setting your expectations with kids, you also have to set your expectations with yourself and realize. So I've got one more story to share. Like this, like when you talk about running, like, oh my gosh, I tried to run the other day and I thought I could just show up and like mind over matter this thing and run a mile. I lasted about 2 blocks. And then I was like, the reality was setting in. This is not going to happen. And fortunately, I had a friend of mine with me, and he was like, it's okay, I'll stick with you. We'll run the corners. So like plan B went into effect. walk and then run the corners. And then pretty soon, like the reality of that set in, like, I'm done. And so, my friend, Tom Shipley, he's absolutely amazing. He's like, what about a brisk walk? We can do a brisk walk, right? We can do this. Like, and I was like, yes, I can do it. But it was one of those things where it's like, my expectations were way off, and I really set myself up for failure. I graduated like quite a long time ago, and probably the last time I ran a mile was in high school. And so it's just one of those things where you're capable of doing great things. You can do hard things, but also know, like, it's okay if you don't knock it out of the park on the first swing.
For sure. It's not about what you do once, but what you do every day, right?
I love it. And we're going to end on that because I think that's amazing. Preston, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And Parker, if you're listening, you're a gem. I really appreciate you reaching out and connecting Preston and I. And it's been amazing. I look forward to meeting you in person one day and hearing more, just keeping up with your family and the health of your son, and absolutely the growth of your business, because that's how we're going to continue this ripple effect of impact.
Yep. Casey, thank you. This has been wonderful.
Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I hope you've received value, encouragement, and exactly what you need to help keep you in momentum to grow and impact the world around you. Big or small, we all make a difference. Thanks also for subscribing, downloading, and leaving a review. This helps us reach others who need this message in their life. If you know anyone who would benefit from this podcast, please share so you and I can help more people boldly step into purpose. It is my heart's mission to help and encourage others. My internal belief that a rising tide lifts all ships. So much of what we talk about on the podcast is leading with value and building relationships through service. So we've created a collection of resources for you to continue growing, whether you are just getting started or ready to scale your business. Visit amplifymyimpact.com for show notes, downloads, programs, and more information about how to directly work with our team to amplify your impact and change the world.